The Chiefs have had one of the best defenses in the NFL over the last several years. This guy's in charge of the whole thing. Defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. We are under the goalpost.
We only say that when we do good, Matt.
Well, you've done really well throughout your entire career. We're going to talk about that. You have 4 Super Bowl rings as a defensive coordinator. I don't know if you know this. You're the only coordinator in NFL history with 4 Super Bowl rings. You ever put them all on and just look at them and think about your career?
I don't know if I've had them all on at one time. They end up in like all of us, they end up in a safety deposit box, and you don't, rarely do you take them out. And honestly, if you take them out, you usually take them out at one at a time. So I don't know if I put all 4 on.
You should try it sometime.
I might have to give that. I may have to run home, get to the bank, and give that a shot.
So the main question about all of this: why defense? Why did you first get involved calling defense?
That's a pretty good question. So when I actually grew up as a high school offensive player, so I played quarterback.
Okay.
And then when I went to college, I actually played on offense as well. I got into coaching, started coaching on offense. I had the wide receivers, tight ends. I think I was 3 years. I was at Lafayette College in Pennsylvania, small college, and our defensive line coach left. And so the head coach asked me, he said, would you want to coach the D-line? And I always liked those big guys, right? So I jumped at the chance and coached the D-line there for 3 years, and then I just never ended up back on the offensive side of the ball.
Rest is history. It's amazing.
Yeah, ended up on. But it was way back at Lafayette when Bill Russo said, Hank Hughes had left, he went to another school. We didn't have a D-line coach, and I don't know what made him think I would be able to coach the D-line, but listen, I studied. I went around the country trying to visit with D-line coaches, and we had a great group of young guys for 3 years.
When your journey also took you to Europe, you were with the Barcelona Dragons, the Frankfurt Galaxy. What was that experience like?
I tell you what, Matt, I wouldn't replace that with anything. So growing up, I always said, why would I want to go to Europe? Why would you go over there? You got everything here in the United States. Well, after I took the one trip abroad, the history, how old it is over there, I just kind of fell in love with Europe, and then here I am doing something I enjoy doing. So it was in Barcelona, Spain in '92, and then came back, coached college 6 years later, went to Frankfurt, Germany, and both experiences were terrific. The people over there really appreciated American football. You're over, it's nonstop. You're over there in a hotel with the guys, right? Mm-hmm. You're all living together, so you're around each other. And, it helped that in both instances, we won games. One of them we went to the World Bowl. So that time was really, really special. I wish that league still existed. Yeah. I thought it was great for young coaches, young video people, young trainers, just kind of working their way into the NFL. So maybe it'll come back someday.
Well, it's cool. We got to go back last year. You coached another game in Frankfurt.
Yeah, how about that? And it was in the same stadium that I had coached at when I was with the Frankfurt Galaxy. Now, they had renovated it, so it looked a little bit different. But that was really neat you're talking, it was 25 years.
Yeah.
Was about what it was. And to go back and go back with the Chiefs and win a game, that was pretty cool. Cool.
Now, after your time in Europe, you had a chance to work for Coach Reid and for Jim Johnson, one of the greatest defensive minds of all time.
Yes.
How did Jim Johnson influence the defensive coordinator you are today?
Yeah, listen, Jim was, a lot of us benefited from working for Jim, myself, Leslie Frazier, Ron Rivera, Sean McDermott, John Harbaugh, all guys are still coaching the league now. Jim was a little bit of an innovator. He was ahead of his time with some of the blitz packages we had. And the thing I learned most from Jim was being aggressive. And the other thing was Jim, when he put something in a game plan and then called it for the first time in that game, if it didn't work, that didn't discourage Jim from continuing to call that, which I kind of respected and ultimately would end up working. But I remember that about Jim, and the blitz packages, a lot of, a good amount of what we still do now really came from him.
Now, I want to ask you about your time with the Giants a little bit. Take me back to the winter of 2007, going into 2008. You're game planning to face the New England Patriots, the undefeated Patriots.
Yeah.
You end up holding them to 14 points. You win that game. You destroy their undefeated season, and you win the Super Bowl. What do you remember about that?
I remember we had a bunch of hungry guys playing that day. Michael and Antonio Pierce and OC, and that was pretty special. I remember going into it, Matt, saying, if we keep them under 30 points, we'd have a decent chance of winning. And lo and behold, we kept them under 14. But they were that good. That was like It's hard to duplicate that. And I've had Super Bowls since, but that was a special group and a special win. It really was. That was cool.
Just an amazing performance by that defense back then. That was the first of 4 Super Bowls for you,
Yeah.
3 in Kansas City. When you reflect on the 2022 draft class, though, you've got all those defenders, guys like Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, so many guys.
Yeah.
Brian Cook.
Was Leo in that?
Leo Chanel, yeah. Like,
Leo, yeah.
how did those guys impact what you're doing now and all the success that we've had?
You know, it's a unique group, and I mean, Brett and his crew, Brett Feach and his crew did a great job identifying those guys, but they all kind of fit. The one common thread with all of them is they're really into football, and they're really intelligent guys. I'm talking about football intelligence. And so when you get a bunch of guys like that, you know, you throw in a Nick Bolton, and you throw in a Drew Tranquill, and Justin Reed, and you throw those
Chris
kind of
Jones
guys
is pretty good too.
Yeah, but they get football. And in this league and in a way, and where this game's going, Matt, if you're not one of those fast thinkers that gets ball, right, and can kind of adjust on the run, because defense is reacting to something all the time, right? When you get a bunch of guys, 11 guys that can do that together, that's when you can become pretty good. And I think that's kind of been the thread or the secret sauce when we do play really well.
This defense has been so good over the last several years. It's a major reason why the Chiefs have now won 3 Super Bowl championships in 5 seasons. And this guy, I think the greatest defensive coordinator of all time, he's a big reason why.
You're being too nice. You're being way too nice. But I appreciate it. Thanks, man.